What do you love most about this space?
Can I share an example? There's a startup, he finished his PhD. This is Sam from Euroflux. He had this life-changing technology. Essentially, it's stroke monitoring. So when you have a stroke, you're likely to have another stroke in the next few days, and you need to be monitored 24/7. And so his device is a way of meaning that nurses don't need to come in every 15 minutes. It monitors the flow of blood in the brain and monitors your heart as well. And so it can pick up on any of the early stages of a stroke.
G'day, it's Rob. Hey, before this episode starts, I just want to give you a little bit of a heads up on what we're talking about. We're talking about entrepreneurship and startup programs at university. And whilst in this episode we do talk a lot about the programs that are available at UNSW, lots of universities do have startup programs, maybe not quite as sophisticated as the ones that we find at UNSW, but a lot of the principles that we talk about in this episode are really valuable to students across the board. So if you're interested in pushing your skills further, have a think about reaching out to the Startups program at whatever institution you're looking to go and study at. Thanks a lot. Now let's get to the episode. G'day and welcome to the Choosing Your Uni podcast. I'm your host, one of your hosts today, Rob Malicki. I'm going to introduce my co-hosts.
Hi, I'm Marine, and I'm Rob's co-host.
And we're joining you today from Bidjigal Land in the south of Sydney. We're on the campus of UNSW. It's a glorious day outside. It's open day. And today we're very grateful to be joined by Victoria from the UNSW Startups Program. Victoria, thanks for joining us on the Choosing Your Uni podcast.
Thanks for having me, Rob. So I work here at UNSW Founders, and my primary role is to run New Wave, our Women in Entrepreneurship program, and to take the lead on any women-focused initiatives here for women who are wanting to build startups or maybe just curious about entrepreneurship.
Can you tell us when New Wave started and how it came about?
Absolutely. So New Wave has been running since 2017. It exists to support women in a way that allows them to feel like they can be themselves. They don't have to be intimidated by the world of entrepreneurship, and it gives them a set of skills and the confidence to just try, maybe fail, but accept that that's okay. And essentially what we do is give them the education, the resources, the mentoring and the coaching to just really help them give it a go. And sometimes that means a great success story comes out of it.
You just mentioned intimidation. I think that's a big thing. As a female founder myself, and I think when you're a student and you're not necessarily very confident as to what you want to do and where you're heading, it can be very intimidating to approach something like UNSW Startup Founders Program. How do you go about letting students know that it could be for them, that they're welcome to come and have a look and try?
Absolutely. That is a big part of what stops people from even giving it a go in the first place. And I can relate to that because when I was a student back in New Zealand, I had that exact same thought, thinking, I have no idea what I'm doing. Can I even do this in the sense of like my skills, knowledge? So what I did was I just accepted that I had no idea what I was doing and I needed to give it a go anyway. Here at UNSW Founders, we really try to break down the barriers by making programs that are low barrier to entry, that are very inclusive, and we encourage the mindset of failure is a good thing. And so instead of students trying to get things perfect, they just try to get things done. They learn, they change, they iterate, and they give it a go again. And that's honestly one of the biggest things, is just learning that it is okay to fail. And actually, the most successful entrepreneurs have failed countless times.
And so before you tell us, give us more details about UNSW Founders, can you tell us more about your personal experience?
Yeah, so my personal journey did start when I was 18. And so I saw a poster put up at the University of Canterbury in New Zealand that was promoting an entrepreneurial program. And I just saw that all that they were asking for was for you to have an idea that you wanted to build. And I had nothing built, and I just had an idea that I was passionate about solving. And so I saw that you also needed a team. So I posted on Facebook and just asked people if they wanted to build out this idea with me. And I had 4 very passionate women want to join my team. And from there, we just gave it a go. We pulled together all of our skills and our difference. So from there, I had a team of 4 women who had such different skills and knowledge. And we just worked together to pitch an idea. And we were all shocked when we got accepted into this entrepreneurship program for the first round. And if I just say a long story short, we didn't make it to the finals. The idea was good, but not good enough. But I learned that, honestly, that is not the most important thing. It doesn't matter if your idea isn't quote unquote good enough. I learned so much from the process without even having started a startup.
Can I jump in on that?
Mm-hmm.
I think some people think about entrepreneurship and they think, that kind of Facebook example, people hidden in a basement building something and I've got to build a company. But in fact, entrepreneurship is also about this set of skills that you can develop, which you can apply not just to build companies, but also in working inside companies as well. Can you tell us a little bit more about the skills that people can expect that they can develop when they get involved in startups and entrepreneurship?
Absolutely. You're touching on something called entrepreneurship there, which is so important. It's where you bring entrepreneurial skills into a business that you're working in or a company. And it means that you're being innovative, you're a problem solver, you're creative, but you're not starting your own thing. And that is so crucial to the development of businesses. But also just what you mentioned about how some people think that entrepreneurship is about hustle culture. I know that for me, that's part of what I thought entrepreneurship was all about before I got involved. And absolutely, it takes a lot of hard work. And you do sometimes have to grind and put in hours that are a bit ridiculous. And we really do try to make sure our founders aren't running themselves into the ground and burning out. They need to have some well-being focus in there as well. But a lot of it is making sure that you know where your boundaries are and what's really important. So there's a lot of, skill involved with knowing when to say yes to opportunity and when to say yes, but not right now, or that's awesome, but not for me. And I think that is something that a lot of people take a while to learn. And it can mean a steep learning curve because they might blow a lot of their budget on saying yes to things that really aren't important, like adding in features to their products that customers want but don't necessarily need and are nice to haves but really are a waste of money. And it definitely is a skill that they have to build, is just knowing the importance and the nice to haves.
And so here at UNSW, how many people are part of the UNSW Founders program and of the New Wave program, and how do they join the program? So as part of the UNSW Founders program, how many, because my understanding is you've got several programs within that umbrella, you've got several programs. So how many programs are we talking about there?
That's a great question because honestly, sometimes I myself get lost in how much we have going on. But to break it down simply, we have 3 stages of entrepreneurship that we support. So that's the curiosity stage, the ideas stage, and the startup stage. But recently, we've also added the scale-up stage. Wow. So that's beyond. Yeah. But if I start at the curiosity stage, that is essentially for the students who have maybe no experience with entrepreneurship and may not even know what the word entrepreneurship means. And these are low barrier to entry workshops, things like 1-hour design thinking workshops or pitching, coming into our makerspace and learning to build things. And it's just giving them a bit of a taste test as to what entrepreneurship can be for them. So it might even just be building something new, not necessarily building a startup. And something that is just for that skill building and expanding their knowledge around the area.
So when you're talking about that curiosity stage and low barrier to entry, what does that mean for a student that's coming to UNSW for the first time? They're in their first year. Should they consider coming and knocking on the door and saying,
100%. First thing to point out is that it's all free, which honestly, living in Sydney, not much is free. And you really need to make the most of that. Exactly, especially as a student. Another part of it is that we have such an extensive team of people who are here and ready to support students and are very passionate about supporting students. And if they come and get involved with us, they don't just have to be doing it for the reasons of wanting to become a founder. They could be wanting to upskill, to increase their employability, or even to work on a project in the makerspace, perhaps that's for their university course. So it's really open as to what you can do here. So it doesn't matter what you're studying, whether it's law or philosophy or Spanish even, but it just means that you are here and you can use this space and our programs to basically just help yourself in your career in any way that's relevant.
And so say you've got a student that's gone through that curiosity program and has absolutely loved it. They then move on to the next stage. Tell us more.
Yeah, so ideas stage. We have 2 very established programs in the ideas stage. So one of them is the Peter Farrell Cup, and that has been running for 22 years. It is our biggest pitch competition for students. And so the barrier for that one, in the sense of like who is eligible, is that you have to be a student at UNSW, but you can be an undergraduate or you can be a postgraduate student. And it is a 10-week program where you get to come and learn all the essential things about entrepreneurship, from problem identification to problem validation, going out in the real world and testing that people actually care about this problem that you've identified, learning how to talk to potential customers, how to design a product that is specifically going to address their needs, right through to pitching your idea. And the ones that have not what we'd call the best ideas, but sometimes the most impactful or the most well thought out ones in terms of having a good business plan. Up to 10 are selected to pitch at a pitch night live in front of an audience for, at the moment, a cash prize pool of about $20,000, which is sponsored by multiple different faculties across UNSW. And that is honestly one of the best ways to meet new people at UNSW and to just bump up your employability on your CV. If you're a student that's looking for experience and is wanting to get a job, but you can't get a job without experience, it is a fantastic program to help you in that sense. And our second program, which is the program that I run, is New Wave, which is specifically designed to support women founders or women who are just wanting to, again, upskill. And this program is really unique in the sense that it is addressing problems uniquely faced by women. So we are ensuring that they have a safe and inclusive space in which they can just totally be themselves and want to potentially address problems that only women would understand. Not always, but definitely we get a lot of social impact focused startup ideas, and they're things that women really care about that sometimes if they were to voice them outside of the space that we create, they may not necessarily be listened to. So this program is similar in the way that it's run in terms of having workshops, and it's a 2 to 4 week program depending on which one you do. So our 2-week program is 2 weeks in person. It's very intensive, immersive, very fun, but as I said, intense is definitely a key word there. But it's basically a crash course on entrepreneurship. And then the second version is 4 weeks online, and we've made that to be more accommodating to women who potentially have children at home or are remote. So we've got women from all across Australia, and actually this program coming up, we've got a woman in China and another woman in London. So it just makes it so much more accessible, which is really exciting. And so this version of the program is a bit more self-paced and allows those who have other commitments to still get involved. And this program as well culminates in a showcase event. So up to 10 women-led teams are chosen to pitch live at a showcase and potentially win cash prizes, as well as just raise awareness for their problem spaces that they're solving.
What a wonderful experience. I wish I'd gone to uni and done that. Could have come in handy.
Us running our first business, we just winged it pretty much. We had some good advisors and people around us, but you don't know what you don't know. And so having that structure around you, I think provides such a huge step up for people who are thinking of doing their own thing.
Provides a lot of security and reassurance, I think, as well.
Yeah, definitely. If you think Maureen, you were the entrepreneur out of the two of us. You kind of drove us into our first business. You sort of drove that process, and we learned a lot as we went along. But yeah,
it would have been handy. And so you've got those 2 wonderful programs. And do you then see people that have completed those 2 programs and get on to the next stage, which is your startup phase? Is that correct?
Yeah, well, that's the goal. We love to support them along that journey and keep them moving along until the point where they're actually ready to launch a startup. For some people, that's not the goal, and that's so okay, because some of the most rewarding things that I hear are that women just feel so much more confident in themselves. And before coming into the program, I've had quite a few women who have been very timid and reserved and didn't want to speak up even when questions were asked in workshops. And then you will see them up on stage pitching their idea in front of an audience of about 100 people and taking home a prize. And they themselves are shocked at what they've achieved. But as a program manager, it's one of the most rewarding things when you can see how far they've come in sometimes only a month, 6 weeks. And that is much more of a for me, it's much more of a win than just having someone who launch a startup, We also want that. Don't get me wrong. That is a big part of what we do here. But knowing people have changed internally is definitely so important to us as well.
And that's brilliant because it'll go on to have repercussions for the rest of their working lives, and they will have repercussions onto other people as well. So
Absolutely.
very impactful.
So with our next stage, our startup stage, we have what we call the pre-accelerator. So that's kind of like a preparatory, just testing ground for those who think that they're ready to launch a startup. And it's, again, an educational piece, but this is also for us a way for us to screen and see, are they actually ready? Is their idea actually worth launching, in the sense that sometimes people get to this stage and they still haven't actually talked to anyone that can validate their problem space and the solution that they've come up with. And after the pre-X, we have our accelerators. And for the accelerators, we have multiple streams. So now we're up to 5 streams. So we've got biotech, climate, defense, health, and our industry agnostic. And we have done this because the support that startups need is very different depending on the industries that they work in. But also it just means that we have a program manager dedicated to each of those different streams, so they get much more one-on-one support.
Victoria, could you just explain for those people who are listening along and might not know this space, what's an accelerator?
Great question. So an accelerator essentially is a launch pad for people who are wanting to take their startup and actually get it to the point where they're making sales. So this could mean you are getting support that will help you learn about raising capital, or just getting your product to a point where it's going to sell itself, really. But Accelerator for us is a very robust program where you get mentoring, you get educational workshops, but also a lot of accountability, which is definitely a big part of what helps people keep moving forward, is when you have other people around you that you've promised to do things for, you've got milestones set and that sort of thing, and you have people that are checking in, making sure that you're actually doing the things that you said that you're going to do, but also making sure that you're not going down a dead end. That's a big part of what we do here too, is our coaching. So people, whether or not you're in a program, any UNSW affiliate, student, staff or alumni can book one-on-one coaching with our team. And we have a huge gallery of coaches that are experts in multiple different things. And this is a unique resource that we have that other universities don't have, that is unlimited, in the sense that you can book as many sessions as you like, and you can book for multiple different reasons, whether it's just an emotional support session, which it does sometimes end up being, or if you're wanting to book with a coach because you want them to specifically help you with, say marketing or learning how to approach raising capital, anything like that. And this is the sort of resource that, honestly, when I was getting involved with entrepreneurship back at uni, I wish that I had, because I had so many questions and there's only so much Google can do to help you.
Sadly, that's very true. And so I find that students often tend to rule themselves out rather than rule themselves in, and will find reasons not to take that first step, thinking, maybe I need to have a team already, or I need to have a specific idea. Or what would you say is the right person to come through the door? And like, if they wonder, maybe I'm too far into my studies, or I'm not far enough into my studies, what is your advice?
Yeah, that is a fantastic question, and one that comes up a lot, in the sense that we see so many different types of people at different ages and stages coming through the doors. And I think a lot of them just sit there and question, like, why me? And can I do it? And the answer is unknown. But I think that it is so important to just give it a go anyway, because you never know. You don't know what you don't know. And the most important thing is that they have a problem worth solving. This is one of the things that is basically the number one reason why startups fail, is that they start trying to build something that nobody asked for, nobody wants to pay for, and they get obsessed with their idea without actually having validated that it is a real problem in the real world. And it's not just their mum that is telling them that it's a good idea. So all they need essentially to start is just a problem worth solving. And then we can help them figure out whether or not it's going to actually work as a business idea, or if it's just something that they can create for themselves and use in their own lives.
Can I just throw in our personal anecdote? Because we're building Choosing Your Uni right now, AI-powered platform to help young people and their parents to decide which degree in university might suit them. And when we started to explore this space, we went out and had conversations with 30 or 40 people just saying, look, this is the problem that we think we've spotted. are we right? Is this a real problem or not? After about 30 conversations, we went, okay, yeah, like this seems, we're hearing the same thing back. This is a real problem that needs to be solved. And after that, we were like, okay, well, what's the idea that might help solve that problem? That's an interesting thing I find in entrepreneurship. Certainly when we went into our first one, we didn't think about putting the problem first. We sort of had the idea first. And then you realize it's actually the other way around, isn't it?
Yeah, that is one of the most common mistakes. And I never want to dampen someone's enthusiasm when they have this idea that they are so excited about. But you do have to bring them back down to reality and be like, okay, awesome. But who have you talked to about this idea that's not your friends, not your mum? And like, have they said that they actually have this problem? And what evidence do you have to prove that? So what you did going and talking to 30 to 40 people is exactly what people need to do. And I think sometimes, quite truthfully, people don't do it because they don't want to get a no. And they want to be right. And so it's kind of scary putting yourself out there with an idea. And so it's much easier to just stay in your room and start building it than to get out into the real world and actually talk to people. And so that is probably one of the biggest barriers where I'll be coaching people and I say, okay, love where this is going. So before we meet again, I just would like you to go out and talk to maybe 20 people about this and then come back to me and let me know what you found. And quite often they don't come back. And I wonder, is it because they just didn't get around to doing that task? Or did they realize in the process that they didn't have a good idea? It is something that happens quite frequently. And my job isn't to tell people they don't have a good idea, but it's to help them do the research and to learn for themselves.
For sure. And do you have examples of people that have had a good idea and how the program has helped them succeed?
Which program?
Actually, that's a fair. I was thinking more of the umbrella one.
Yeah.
Any of the programs at UNSW Founders, take your pick. An example of one where you went, this is a good story.
Absolutely. So I'll just go with my program because I know it best.
Sure.
So with New Wave, we, as I said, have a lot of women who come in who don't have any experience with entrepreneurship initially, but they're just eager to give it a go. And so in our recent cohort, we had a woman who is a stay-at-home mum. She has a son who struggles with his communication articulation. He has a speech pathologist that he works with. And this mum, whilst she definitely values the speech pathologist and it's really important, she's found that it's just not enough in order to be able to help her son progress as quickly as she'd like, but also to be able to track what progress he's actually making. So she came into the program being like, I saw that you just kind of need to have a problem. I've got a problem. I don't know how I'm going to solve it, but here I am. And I loved this because it's obviously a really personal thing for her. She's going through it. And in her circles, she's connected with other mothers who are also basically experiencing the same problem and really want it to be solved, but don't know how. So she started there, which is the right place to start. And what happened throughout this program is that firstly, she met another woman in the program who, with New Wave, you don't actually have to have an idea to apply. You can come in as someone who has a set of skills and wants to apply their skills to a team. So she met a woman who had a complementary set of skills, who was also really passionate about this problem space. Even though she hadn't experienced it herself, she thought it was a really rewarding thing to work on. So they teamed up, and what they did throughout the 2-week program is that they worked on a whole lot of things, right from identifying the problem, being able to articulate it, through to being able to pitch it at the end. But what we basically provided them with was very structured support and step-by-step processes to go, okay, how do I take this problem from this problem stage to actually being a potential product with potential customers? And so we walked them through the identification of the program and of the problem through to, okay, you're going to go out and talk to people now. So they went out and interviewed multiple speech pathologists, students and children and parents and teachers that had experience with this problem. And it was very, very evident that it existed, and that while speech pathologists were very much needed, there was a gap. And that gap was basically for parents at home. If they're not at speech pathologist sessions, then what are they doing? What can we do? And they might be given homework tasks to work on, but it can be very hard to basically know if it's actually doing anything. So they then went through this process of going, how do we solve this problem? We gave them design thinking workshops. We gave them workshops that taught them how to actually build something quickly. So our rapid prototyping session is one that we do a lot. And so they were able to build something, very, very few resources, no money required, and then take that out to those parents that they talk to and go, would this work for you? And essentially it was an app that the parents could use at home that would communicate with the child, the parent, and the speech pathologist, which connected all the dots together and was much more affordable, because I don't know if you've ever been to a speech pathologist, but very expensive. And also it's just much more effective in the sense that you can connect the dots between what you're doing in your sessions and what you're doing at home. And from there, they learned how to communicate this idea in a way that was going to reach the audience. They successfully got a spot in the top 10 and pitched their idea live at the New Wave Showcase event. They took home the Medicine and Health Prize for their idea. And from there, they went on to do our Peter Farrell Cup competition. And they're pitching again on Tuesday night because they've made it into the top 10 teams for that one too. And I'm really excited about it because I think it's going to be a very impactful idea. I believe that they will launch it, and if they take home some more cash from the event on Tuesday night, then I think that'll be a really great cash injection to help them get their app launched. So it's very exciting.
Really inspiring.
Now might be a good moment for us to grab Hamish and drag you into this conversation. Hamish, thanks for joining us on the Choose Uni podcast.
Yeah, thanks for having me. It's great to be here.
It's pretty awesome to have you here because the space where we're recording is the makerspace here at UNSW for people who are working on startups. And for those people listening along, not watching, this is like a Funktown workshop. You've got all kinds of machineries, tools, drills. I can see a saw. I can see a model aircraft hanging from the roof, 3D printers. There's all sorts of cool stuff in here. And you look after this space. Tell us a little bit about what we're experiencing here in this space right now.
Yeah, excellent. So we're in the Michael Cratch Innovation Center. This is the makerspace. So any startup that has an idea, and if that idea is vaguely hardware related, we're the place for them. We have 3D printers, laser cutters, some of your more like traditional woodworking and metalworking tools, pretty much any hand tool we've got. And then we have a decent amount of electronics. What we don't have in this space, we have in the makerspace network. So there's a few makerspaces on campus, which really means that if you want to make anything, well, we're the university for it, but this makerspace it's here for you. Yeah.
How easy or hard is it to get access to this space for students that are part of the program?
We've tried to make it as easy as possible. Now, there are some safety requirements. So if you go onto our website, you'll find that there's the Makerspace Safety Induction, or the Workshop Safety Badge, I think is what it's called at the moment. That is it's a 1 hour online and then 2 hours in person. It can seem like you're just ticking boxes, but it is a really incredible chance to learn how to use the equipment. And it also gives me confidence when I supervise, 60 students at once in this, big but relatively small space when you get that many people all with tools.
What do you love most about this space?
Can I share an example? There's a startup. He finished his PhD. This is Sam from Neuroflux. He had this life-changing technology. Essentially, it's stroke monitoring. So when you have a stroke, you're likely to have another stroke in the next few days, and you need to be monitored 24/7. And so his device is a way of meaning that nurses don't need to come in every 15 minutes. And so this device, it monitors the flow. If he's hearing this, he's probably, frowning, but it monitors the flow of blood in the brain and monitors your heart as well. And so it can pick up on any of the early stages of a stroke. And so it can get you back to the hospital really quick. Now, his life-changing technology, he finished his PhD, he knew the technology worked, but unless he implemented it, it was going to go nowhere. And so he went to an engineering firm. They quoted him just under $1 million. No PhD candidate, let alone anyone, has that much money to just drop on a whim. And so he came to us and we helped him. We filled out his skill set. So we helped him with the 3D printing and the laser cutting and the design work. We got him through his first clinical trial. He's currently in his second clinical trial. And so we've been able to follow his success. And in time, when he hears good things from the clinical trials and people really... he's got the momentum and people see what he's making, he'll be able to get those grants and maybe go back to those engineering firms if he sees fit and get that product out into the market.
This is really nice. One of the things that I really appreciate about UNSW is how it's brought this facility into the hands of students. I mean, I think most universities have got great facilities where you can go and build stuff if you're part of the engineering program or you're part of one of the specific niche areas, but they're kind of almost like cordoned off. And unless you're in a PhD program or fill in the blank. You don't really get access to it. It feels really nice to have that available for people to be able to develop their ideas.
Yeah, it's refreshing. This space, all you need is a ZID. And so all you need to be is somewhat affiliated to the university. Yeah, students, researchers, alumni, staff, we're here for everyone. We want to hear your ideas. We want to support you. That could just be a personal project, but then maybe, later in the line, I'll tap you on the shoulder and be like, your personal project's a brilliant startup. You should come do New Wave or one of our other programs. And so it's an exciting space to be. And there's always lots of new and novel ideas. And it's incredible. Yeah, no day is the same.
How did you end up being part of this?
Yeah, so I suppose the Makerspace network, it's truly a network on this campus. Every Makerspace tech knows and likes each other, and it's a good time to make things. I was a casual in the engineering firm, or in the engineering faculty, and I was a student in the built environment faculty. And so I covered the whole network just as I was a student. I did that for ages, working in the makerspaces, helping people make things and cleaning up after them. And then a little later on, this job came up, and I was like, oh, this person has so many already in the network and they know how to make things. Now we just need to teach them how startups work. And so that's sort of how I found myself here.
And that's why you should get involved when you're a student and take up all the opportunities that come your way.
Yeah, it really is. I was down at UNSW in Canberra, so there's a small footprint down there and soon to be a very large footprint down in Canberra. And what I was also impressed by was how the university has very deliberately tried to position this sort of innovation side of things close to actual industry. So if you're working on a startup program, there are people who have built companies that are, down in Canberra, they're co-located, and that's very much the concept down there. But even here, you've got opportunities to interact with, I dare say, real, inverted commas, professionals, but people who are out there at the coalface building and creating things day in, day out, which is pretty cool.
I don't know, have we spoke much about the 10X program yet? So the 10X program, now correct me if I miss anything. So the 10X accelerator, where we try and take the best startups from each program, and the program being whether it be health or defense or biotech or climate. Am I missing any? Health and general industry. This is why we're here together. We pair them up with industry experts, and they are the program managers, and they're the ones that help liaison between real companies that want to be involved with startups and startups that need, they exist in the real world and they need to get influence and funding from them. Yeah.
So through your boss, we've learned about the UNSW Founders program and this umbrella program and how it's got those different stages throughout the different fields that people can take part in, how you can go from being curious to having an idea to a startup phase and then to an accelerator. I guess at some point in that, there's a money question that comes into play. If your idea you want it to become real, at some point some money needs to come to the table. How do students go about that? Are you able to support them at all? How does it work?
Yeah, so money is always an important factor in entrepreneurship. So as I mentioned earlier in our conversation, everything that we do is free. Our programs, the coaching, the mentors that we connect them with offer their time to the students and founders for free. So it starts at essentially, where do we get our money, UNSW Founders? A lot of what we do wouldn't be possible without philanthropic donations and those who are passionate about supporting founders and entrepreneurship across Australia, donating and also partnering with us. So we have partners for our accelerator programs who will co-invest with us in the startups that come through our accelerators. And so for that reason, we choose the best of the best to do those programs because they are getting funding from us. And so that has changed over the years. It's gone up and up in terms of the dollar amount, but they essentially will go through our programs, and if everything goes well, at the end of the program, they'll get an investment from us that could look like 100K plus, which is pretty good. Very good. In terms of investment, we have the most founder-friendly terms that you will likely find out there. We aren't here to just make a profit from our startups, but we really do want them to succeed. So when we're investing, we're doing it with the hopes that they will go far, and that support continues post-program too. It doesn't just finish with them doing a program and then we say goodbye, good luck. But when it comes to raising capital, we're constantly supporting founders through that process, whether that's through coaching or connecting them with industry experts out there in the quote-unquote real world. So when it comes to funding, we try to upskill them so that they can raise the funds themselves. Obviously, the most important thing is that they're creating a product that will sell itself. But at the end of the day, whatever it is that they need in terms of moral support and also just understanding, are these good terms or, can I trust this VC? We really do just ensure that they are getting that.
And have you had any students that went through this program and went and launched a company and then afterwards have been in a position to then come and be mentors or to give back financially? Or have you had anyone yet that's been through that whole cycle? Or
So we really do foster a give back culture here at UNSW Founders. To date, we haven't had any financial give back, but I am believing that there are a lot of startups out there that will get to that stage. But absolutely, we have so many of our founders that come back and mentor, that facilitate workshops for us, that come and have fireside chats and share their knowledge and learnings with our younger generations and up and coming founders. It's a huge part of what makes our program so great, is that we have a culture that is all about that community.
Well, Hamish and Victoria, thank you so much for taking the time to tell us all about the new UNSW Founders Program. It's really interesting, and quite envy students that will have a chance to come and step in here one day and take part in this. I think it's really exciting.
Thanks so much. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Okay, so I'm at the Peter Farrell Cup finals, and I've just grabbed Vice-Chancellor of UNSW, Attila Brungs. Attila, thanks for joining us for a quick podcast.
It is a real pleasure. Thanks for coming tonight. This is one of the most exciting nights in the calendar. I really love this competition.
What an extraordinary night. And I just heard that UNSW just yesterday won an entrepreneurship award, the most entrepreneurial university in the Asia Pacific region. A huge accolade.
It is a huge accolade, but for me, it's not just about the accolade. It's almost about the responsibility. That's what makes UNSW special. We have a real focus on entrepreneurship and on innovation. We've won all the accolades you can get, the most entrepreneurial university in Asia Pacific, but it's because teams like the Founders care deeply and are passionate about supporting people here. Would you know how many people get an entrepreneurial or innovation experience every year at UNSW?
No.
10,000.
Wow.
Okay, so that means we've got people here at the Peter Farrell Cup where we have 150 come through these final 9. But also on top of that, we have the people who may not be a Peter Farrell Cup contender, but love innovation. And to support 10,000 of them makes me very proud of my university.
Wonderful. And what was your favourite startup pitch tonight at the Peter Farrell Cup?
I'm going to be careful because I'm a judge, okay? So I can't give away the judging secrets. But let's say two of the ones that sprang out of me, and they both won awards, which is good, was the one who talked about wave energy.
Yes.
I mean, having a solution that is environmentally friendly, almost not quite negative, but almost zero embedded carbon in storing energy in oceans, that is quite extraordinary.
Genius.
That could come off. And the way that they thought about how do they link it with offshore wind farms to make sure that the infrastructure is already there. That's fantastic. Another one I loved was the ones who did the diesel for farmers. I mean, farmers, if you look at where we have carbon emissions to do, farms are one of the big areas. Helping farmers save money, make their farms more economic, make their lives easier, but with biodiesel, using really clever algae. I'm a scientist. I'm a biologist. I'm already, and algae is just a genius idea.
Amazing. Thanks for your time tonight, and congratulations on the success. Thanks. At Choosing Your Uni, our mission is to make finding your ideal institution and your degree fun, easy, and stress-free. So if you're looking to save some time, to discover more, and to get personalised advice for every step of your journey, check out choosingyouruni.com. Our theme music is composed by Pasha Shogi and his band Flow, and this episode has been researched and constructed on Garigal land in Sydney. Until next time, have yourself an awesome day.